Well, here in Kiev, there are fears, and indeed in the outside world as well, that some of the bitter and historic divisions in this country will come to the fore at this very delicate moment and jeopardize the country's new future. In fact, the West and Russia have also been trading verbal blows, with the West accusing, or warning Russia rather, to respect Ukraine's sovereignty and its integrity. Meanwhile, the Russians have accused the people here, the protesters, of jeopardizing the deal that was just thrashed out a few days ago. It has been another astonishing day here on the streets of Kiev, and I warn you, there are some disturbing images in my report. It was this bloodbath on the streets of Kiev that has spelled the demise of a desperate regime. This new footage shows up close and personal the brutality unleashed by the government on the streets of its own capital, on its own people, leaving dozens of them dead. We still don't know who exactly gave the order for this, but we do know who will be held responsible. The man with his face emblazoned on his own brandy bottles. At one stage, the president, who called this place home, even tried to get the army to intervene on his behalf. They refused. Every hour, new shades of his opulence come to light, most of them in gold. And this wasn't even his house. It was his personal galleon on his private lake. This sped-up CCTV footage from his compound shows the president and his family making a swift nocturnal exit. Today no one knows where they are. In his absence, Parliament, now guarded by the victorious revolution, has been dismantling the president's power bit by bit. Yesterday, even his own supporters voted to impeach him. Today, they voted to dismiss his cabinet one minister at a time. Meanwhile, in the musty corridors of power, the battle for succession is already in full gear. Call it Kiev's version of the Game of Thrones. You may recognize some of the leading candidates. Arseny Yatsenyuk, former economics minister, the poorest of the bunch, a leading voice of the protest and a veteran operator in a hurry, known locally as Rabbit. Should I call you Prime Minister?
You can call me MP.
Okay. So what's happening?
We are to start to form the coalition in the House. I'm sorry, I need to walk.
Will you be Prime Minister? After some more networking, lasting about 1 hour, same question, slightly different answer. Will you be the Prime Minister?
Let's wait and see.
Then, of course, there's the heavyweight boxing champion and multi-millionaire Vitaly Klitschko.
For me, it's a question of reform for my country. Because
do you see yourself as president?
If people decide that, I take responsibility.
That's a yes then. Don't forget Yulia Tymoshenko. Her nickname is Gas Princess because of the millions she made in the 90s. Now she's out of prison, but said today that she didn't want to be Prime Minister again, which is just as well, because this was only a look-alike. Quick chat now. Outside, we met the hot inside tip. Petro Poroshenko, former foreign minister, media magnate and confectionery tycoon. A billionaire, Forbes magazine calls him Ukraine's king of chocolate. Can we see you running for president?
My most important thing is that we have a one united team. And if it would...
She wants you to be president.
Poroshenko, наш президент. Poroshenko, наш президент.
Your campaign has started today. So what you're saying is millionaires and billionaires vying for power. To the boys on the barricades, it sounds like politics as usual. The difference is, he told me, we're no longer afraid of any politicians. And that's the biggest change of the last week. Well, there's been a lot of diplomacy, as you can imagine. In Washington, Susan Rice, the national security advisor, has said that, has warned Russia that if they intended to use any kind of military response to what was going on here in Ukraine, that would be a grave mistake. Meanwhile, the German Chancellor Angela Merkel has called Moscow Vladimir Putin and has coaxed out of the Russian president, just before the closing ceremony of the Sochi Olympics, that Russia would respect the territorial integrity of Ukraine. Now, these are all crucial developments because, of course, everyone is worried about this country sticking together, about unity in Ukraine.